This is James Altucher at TheStreet.com TV here with Jim Cramer, and we're going to talk today about activist stocks, which is a favorite topic of mine. So Jim, on Stock Picker, we keep track of pretty much all the activists, and we even have a portfolio. If you click on today's list, then latest activist situations, it's all the up-to-date activist situations where investors are clamoring for change.
I go every day because something's changed in America. Whether it be Cadbury, Schweppes, and Peltz calls them and they split the company in two. Whether it be Heinz, where again, a Peltz decides to pressure Johnson, the CEO, and it works. PDLI has been a focus of mine because the guys there have been ideal both in Ligand Pharmaceutical and Nabi. So, I think that you're getting some really high quality guys step up to the plate. Third Point, really smart guys.
Yeah, Third Point's great, and they're basically, PDLI makes a ton of cash.
Right.
The management's been squandering it according to Third Point. They're calling for change. You've seen them do it in the past. Where do you think that could head from here?
Look, I was saying on my show, I think that's 3-4 down, maybe 20 up. PDLI is really interesting because the reckless spending of management has just created an aura where they can't do anything right. But suddenly you get a smart guy coming in. It reminds me of Temple Inland. Temple Inland hadn't been able to do anything right for 15 years. Carl Icahn steps in, and suddenly they're doing the right thing.
Well, and you brought up another company where it's actually hard to imagine an investor would know more about a company than what Nelson Peltz knows about Cadbury Schweppes. And he sold Snapple to them. He knows the company inside and out. So how do you see that playing out? Like, they're battling now.
I think those pieces remind me, honestly, maybe not as much upside as Daimler Chrysler. Daimler Chrysler, who would have thought that you could tackle on 20 quick ones on the idea of getting rid of something that nobody liked? I think that there are parts of Cadbury that people would just love to buy. I would stay long Cadbury. Classically overvalued on earnings. Please do not think that this is a PE play. But there are lots of people looking at these parts.
Well, it's interesting because, like you mentioned, it's trading for something like 18 or 19 times forward earnings.
So the food group tends to have these high multiples.
But the soft drink group, like Coca-Cola, doesn't. So,
so
if they split off the soft drinks.
Coca-Cola 19 times earnings, I find Coca-Cola to be not as bad as it used to be. I still can't get my arms around why I would want to own it other than the Buffett imprimatur. But what I see with Cadbury is a Hershey could make a move here. A Wrigley could make a move here. They've been enemies. And on the soft drink side, I don't know. I've been enamored of carbonated just because of Jones. Now, carbonated has been a giant drag for Pepsi and Coke. But if you get it right, now Jones is obviously a very small company. Jones and also Hansen and energy drinks. These are the growth categories other than water, and there's no real money made in water.
Now, there's a lot of activism happening on the technology side just because these companies have accumulated so much cash, but tech changes. So companies have the cash, but maybe not the growth. So
very reluctant. Look, we did see Freescale get the private equity bid. And I think that made a lot of people feel that there's a lot more private equity coming into tech. I find the tech product cycles rule here, and I also find that you can't go against certain companies. So if you look at a telco, it's just too competitive. If you look at networking, it's too competitive. If you got software, I think you've done some great stuff. For networking, what will Cisco buy next? You did in Stock Picker. What will Oracle buy next? You did in Stock Picker. I think that those are good, but you got to be understanding that the risk reward there is not good if you don't get the bid. Look at Tellabs. How bad that's been. That's a well-run company.
Well, now, you mentioned another icon play with Temple Inland, but what about Motorola?
Motorola has a lot of cash. I think that Motorola is one of those companies where Ed Zander's about to join my wall of shame on Mad Money. He has really squandered the opportunities here. It's very clear that Motorola is a fashion company, and they missed. I don't think they knew they were a fashion company. I think they thought they were a technology company. Apple, by the way, totally understands that they're a fashion company. I don't know what I would do if I were Icon. I think you could do a recapitalization of Motorola, but who would want to own the stub?
Yeah, because even if you do a recapitalization, let's say the iPhone comes out and it's a huge success. That's
iPhone
it. Game
people
over.
were initially thinking, how can they ever do $4 or $5 million with that price point? I now believe it's going to be closer to $10 million. This is a phone the kids are clamoring for. You cannot take into account this level of tech without speaking to teenagers. Too many of the people who have been opining on Apple don't understand that Apple is a style. It is not tech. It is a style.
Now, so just in general, activist situations, hedge funds, arguing for change, good or bad?
I had to take my cue from Bob Johnson at Heinz, because he dealt with pelts extensively. Once he got in there, also in Richard Parsons from AOL, from Time Warner. Once Icon got into Time Warner, once Peltz got into Heinz, they felt the heat. These had been managements that didn't feel any heat. You tend to perform better with heat. Now, no one wants a million different bosses. You just like to be able to report to the board of directors. But those days are over. And what I would say is follow the money. When a Peltz gets involved, when an Icon gets involved, managements feel obliged to do something special for you.
Well, in particular, Peltz has been amazing with Heinz, with Wendy's. I mean,
He's a very smart guy. He's always been, from Triangle, he's a smart guy. I don't know him, but I do know that he has a good eye for value.
Okay, well, Jim, thanks.
Thank
That's
you. Thank you,
Activist
James.
Situations and TheStreet.com TV. This is James Altucher.